Multisport. I'm your host Todd with my co-host Jordan.
Hey guys.
And Coach Scott.
Hi.
Hey, welcome guys. We're here to our next podcast session, and this is going to be a fun one today. We want to jump into the topic of smart trainers and the pros and cons. I know Jordan has a lot of excitement around this topic, so maybe we'll go to him first and just have him give us his take on smart trainers and how they've evolved the last couple of years and how he uses them in his training.
So smart trainers have really been a big area of, growth in the triathlon and the cycling community. You see more and more coming out there, more watts, different technologies. There's a lot of options on the market right now. Although that right now with the COVID situation, there's not a lot of availability because all of the trainer companies have been selling out quite a bit, considering all of Europe is basically completely on lockdown and they're not doing any outdoor cycling, including all the pros. They're all on, all those major platforms and everything like that. There's different technologies out there. And there's different options for smart trainers, and there's different accuracy for smart trainers. I did start with a smart trainer that had magnetic resistance that would adjust, but it was a wheel-on smart trainer. The accuracy of that power data, the companies would say, somewhere around 5 to 10%, but that was always variable. I've since upgraded to a Hammer direct drive trainer and absolutely love it. I feel that the feeling of a direct drive, wheel off trainer feels more similar to the outside road, but it comes with a little bit more cost to it. And not for everyone. The biggest thing is if you're cycling, getting on your bike and building those muscles, they're all generally accomplishing the same thing, but there are some advantages to it. A big thing I love about direct drive trainers or in general is you have different modes that you can ride in. You can ride in ERG mode. You can ride in resistance mode. You can ride simulated terrain through some of the platforms, which basically you can go climb the equivalent of Alpe d'Huez on Zwift and, try to, climb up, the same type of gradient that Lance Armstrong did. And there's a lot out there. I think that Coach Scott would have opinion on what's better and what's best, and, there are positives and negatives on it. Everybody needs to find what's best for them and just make sure that they're having fun on their bikes indoors.
Sorry, so Coach, do you want to comment a little bit about how you advise your athletes on when the right time to pull the trigger and have a smart trainer in their equipment arsenal?
The choice of a trainer ultimately is up to the athlete. I don't dictate you have to have this trainer versus that trainer, because as Jordan said, there is a cost involved. You can get a fluid trainer for a couple $300. You can generally find them used for even less than that. Whereas a smart trainer, you can easily spend $1,100, $1,200, $1,500. So there is a huge difference in investment. I have some issues with smart trainers, not a lot, but some. First of all, there is no question that a smart trainer will help you in that you're going to, if you're doing intervals, it's going to, if you're doing intervals in a smart trainer in our ERG mode, you're going to hit the target power because the trainer is going to force you to hit the target power. So in that sense, they're really good. You can put your head down, you can grit your teeth, especially for the VO2 max workouts, the really hard workouts. You can just put your head down and you can just ride and know that you've hit your targets. But I'll give an example of one of my athletes. He lived for a long period of time in Beijing, China. And in Beijing, there's lots and lots of traffic. There's lots of pollution. You just don't ride outside. It's not safe. And so for 2 years, he rode his smart trainer diligently. That's all he rode in ERG mode. Well, then he went to a 70.3, and I get a text after the race. His bike split was just atrocious. And he'd done all this work on the bike, and rightly so. He said, what the heck? Well, I looked at the file, and it turns out he was in a single gear the entire time because he never learned about changing gears because he was in ERG mode the entire time. And so there's some gotchas you got to be aware of on a smart trainer. And if you're aware of those, and if you do things to avoid them, then smart trainers are excellent. That's not to say that you can't get good training on a fluid trainer. There's still lots and lots of athletes that use a fluid trainer as their primary platform to ride on. There's some athletes that ride on rollers, which is also equally good. But do you need one versus the other? You could make a case that a smart trainer is going to certainly augment your training and make you a better cyclist, a stronger cyclist. I think both of you're both on smart trainers, and you both enjoyed some pretty significant increases in FTP and time to exhaustion and the metrics that we look at. And we can directly attribute that to the smart trainer because you're hitting targets precisely. It's not, if your target power is 275 watts, you're hitting 275 watts, not 272 watts, not 269 watts. You're hitting 300 or whatever the target is. Mm-hmm. And conversely with that, you're not going over the target. That's just as important sometimes as being under it. So smart trainers are good in that sense. I don't know that I'd ever tell somebody you have to go out and spend this insert amount here to get the smart trainer, because you can get good workouts on a fluid trainer also. And ultimately, riding outdoors is ultimately the preferred method, but for most age group triathletes, that's not a realistic option because of the time involved.
So one of the things as I got into a smart trainer and just started using it the last 2 or 3 months was that I had some questions. I didn't quite understand the move from my magnetic or fluid trainer that I was using to a smart trainer, and really what the difference was. And I think if we step back for a second and think about, or at least explain even what ERG mode is, we talk about in training and using metrics when we're just using heart rate training, and we've moved from heart rate to power training and having some kind of power meter on our bike. Then having a smart trainer takes the power meter out of the equation because it provides the actual resistance and power tracking for the training session. But where the smart trainer then differentiates a dumb trainer, if you will, is that it can then react to a platform and change resistance. So as to what Jordan was saying, trying to climb a certain type of course that's on the platform, it actually can provide the right resistance to mimic the course conditions. So I think that's important for us to delineate between when you're just training with power and then moving to a smart trainer and the advantages in interaction with some kind of platform. I think is important for us to call out.
First of all, most smart trainers, if you have power meter on your bike, most smart trainers will take the input from your power meter, which is good. I mean, that's how I'd prefer to see it, because then you're riding with your power versus if a smart trainer, if it's off by a couple percent from what yours is, if your FTP is 350 and you're off by 2%, I mean, that's enough. Jordan will tell you on a VO2 max interval, that 2% at 350 watts is enough to make you fail the interval. And so that would be the first step. If you've got a power meter, then the smart trainer is running off the power meter. But to your point, yes, it will respond. If you have intervals, regardless of which training platform you're using, it will adjust to those intervals. Or if you're riding in a platform like Zwift, where you're riding a course, then it will mimic the terrain. Mm-hmm. And so when you're mimicking the terrain, then that's going to help you offset that concern about gearing, because you're going to have to, it's not just going to set a target for you. It's going to let you ride, and you're going to select your gearing going up that terrain.
Yeah. So Jordan, go ahead. I think you had something about your experience with it.
The one thing that I wanted to actually just mention too is it's not necessarily following, it's knowing a little bit more about the smart trainer's functionality. So some workouts really you don't want to do an ERG. This last winter, Scott had me doing some, anaerobic maximums, which basically you're just riding along in zone 2 and then just punching the max power that you can do for, 30 seconds or whatever that each interval was. Just trying to, build some of that strength and explosiveness, not really triathlon specific, but just, a great workout. There's some of my favorite workouts I did all winter, but you can't do that in ERG mode. The trainer's not going to ramp up that fast. So knowing that these trainers have other options is kind of the big game changer with smart trainers in general. I can just set that trainer to go in a set resistance and then use my gears to increase that power output massively, and quickly, because most smart trainers, now the more money you're going to spend, the faster they can ramp and things like that. But in general, they're not going to be able to ramp you from 180 watts up to 800 watts. Or if you're just trying to do your max 30-second power, and you're in ERG mode, let's say the workout's set for 800 watts, but you can do 1,000 watts. You can't do it because the trainer will just start to decrease the resistance. So you have to know what type of workout you're doing and what the goal of that workout is before you decide, am I going to ride in resistance mode or am I going to ride in ERG mode where the trainer automatically adjusts?
So I think that's important delineation. So with the smart trainer, when you have, it's not only able to output the wattage that you are putting out, the energy that you are converting to power into the trainer, but it's also then able to change resistance. And that's, I think, the delineation of ERG mode is when it's reacting to a platform that's providing information, and that trainer is then forcing you to hit a certain power wattage versus recording what your max or what your output is. So you have to know the trainers are able to do both in the platforms, and then it's a matter of understanding how much money you want to spend across the various models and doing your research on the trainers to understand maybe, as you mentioned, Jordan, the percentage variance between the power ratings and power measurement of that smart trainer.
Yep.
So, Coach, we've mentioned a couple platforms now through the discussion of smart trainers and the advantages and disadvantages. Would you like to kind of overview the different platforms that we can look at as athletes and how you use maybe some of them with your coached athletes to track their training programs?
There's lots of platforms out there. The two that we primarily use at BSC are TrainerRoad and Zwift. And TrainerRoad is one of the oldest ones. It's real simple. It's a screen. It's got bars in the screen. The bars represent your target, and it's got a trace for your FTP or for your output power. I'm sorry, and you just basically line your output power up with the target, and you're good to go. The downside to TrainerRoad is it can be incredibly boring. You're just looking at this graph on the screen, and you see this line just moving through across the workout. If you're a fan of structured workouts, putting your head down and just gritting your teeth and working, then TrainerRoad's a good platform. Up to about an hour. After about an hour, most people can only tolerate that for so long, and that's a reality. The next one that we use is Zwift, and I will say when Zwift first came out, I was very resistant to the idea of Zwift. I didn't like the notion of a video game because that's how it came across to me. But now I'm seeing more and more. In fact, last year with Jordan, Jordan's training time, like most age group athletes, is somewhat limited. He's only got so many hours in a week that he can train. And so we got to a point, his CTL got so high that it was unsustainable. And so we began to run into the problem of how are we going to get the TSS that we need when he doesn't have time to do that. And we were able to turn to Zwift because Zwift has racing, and Jordan loves to race. And so that was an outlet for him, and it was also a way that we could achieve the TSS we needed, the weekly TSS, without blowing him up. And so increasingly, I'm becoming a bigger and bigger fan of Zwift. The nice thing about it, all the DSC workouts are written in the workout builder on Training Peaks, and so you can use them in Trainer Road, or you can use them in Zwift. They'll just transfer across, and so that's the main reason we use those two platforms, is because everything works together. There's other platforms. Sufferfest is one that comes to mind. I like Sufferfest. I like the videos, but I that's just not one we frequent.
Mm-hmm. Jordan, I know you've looked at a couple different platforms, and you've also, raced and enjoyed Zwift, but maybe you can talk to us a little bit about the different platforms you've tried and what you found to be, the best for you.
So the one thing to notice with all the platforms is it's not a marriage. You're not locked into it forever. Most of them have free trial periods, so you can figure out which one works best for you. I'm a huge Zwift lover. I love Zwift racing. Sometimes I love Zwift racing too much. I think that another downside to Zwift, which Coach Scott will tell me frequently, is the distraction of it. When you just go on and add an extra, 20-minute crit race onto your plan, and it's not written in Training Peaks, it can throw off your weekly stress, and it can increase the fatigue, where then I might not be able to hit some of my other workouts that I'm supposed to hit for the week, which I will get some texts after I do something like that, and Scott will tell me that I deserve it.
To that point, real quick.
But Zwift does have.
Sorry, to that point, real quick. Some of the distractions too. Jordan would be using Jordan as the example again. He'll be doing a Z2 ride or a sweet spot ride, which maybe he's riding along at 83, 84%, and somebody passes him. And Jordan's, it's like the hair on the back of his neck comes up, and he's like, "Oh no, you don't either." And then the race is on, and all of a sudden his ride that was supposed to be 70 TSS is now 104 TSS, and it just creates problems. So yes, that is a concern on Zwift, is the distraction of other riders, especially when you know that they're not video game riders. It's actually real people
Mm-hmm.
that are represented by that avatar that just blew you off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or when you get into a race and you get to race against Mark Cavendish, I mean, if he attacks, I'm going to follow.
Mm-hmm.
I might destroy myself and not be able to walk for another 3 days afterwards, but I'm still going to go with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are some downsides to that, and being disciplined is important. But because Coach Scott can just upload the workout, if I can kind of, it helps me work a little bit on my own mental training for the game to try to limit the distractions, because you might get passed in a race and you might not like it, but that person might be going way above where they should be, and you'll catch them later on down the road. And if you don't do that, or if you don't follow your own plan, you'll blow up too, and you won't finish your race.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the downside to Zwift. But for me, Zwift works perfectly. Trainer Road I've used in the past, and I really do like the structure. I really liked Trainer Road when I wasn't coached and I didn't have those structured workouts going into Zwift that you can just automatically upload, because they have great workout plans. There's no doubt that their Trainer Road's workout plans are amazing. My wife Catherine used that to get through her first Olympic triathlon, and she was absolutely spectacular. So Trainer Road can do a great job. New ones popping up like Ruvi, who Ironman, their virtual race series is building those actual courses into Ruvi. And so if you want to ride a race, especially like a virtual race, and test yourself against other people in light of us not being able to race in person, Ruvi is going to be great for something like that. You can build the course. The course has its course video. So it does actually seem like you're riding a real course, and Zwift does have a little bit more of a video game feel to it. Um, and then there's Be Cool has a really cool training platform. Sufferfest you see as has cool videos, great workouts. Um, there's so many options out there, and most of the time you can get 15-30 day free trial. Figure out which one you like, what's going to work for you, whatever's going to get you riding your bike and being fit.
Hmm.
That's the training platform to go with.
I
At
think
the end of the day, that's the key on both the trainer and the platform. You want what's going to work for you to get you on your bike and get the miles into your legs. If you hate the platform you're riding in, or if you hate the trainer you're riding on, you're not going to ride. And so ultimately, that's going to be a disservice to you. There's options to all the platforms. There's options. There's variances, and there's pros and cons to all the platforms. There's pros and cons to all the trainers and trainer options.
hmm
And so finding what works for you is the important thing. And as Jordan said, most of the platforms have free trials that you can go in, you can try it, and get a taste of what you're getting into.
I think one thing too that I learned as I was getting into using structured workouts that are then in a platform loaded by a coach was to understand how you interact with the platform. So having a subscription to, say, Zwift or Trainer Road, you then need to know what you need to have equipment-wise, right? So I had been using a power meter, power pedals on my triathlon bike, and was able to interface that power meter on my bike with the platform. I didn't need a smart trainer to start out. So I think it's important too, right, that you don't necessarily need to go out and buy the $2,000 smart trainer, log in and subscribe to the premium subscription platform for things to work. You can start smaller and work your way up the platforms as you find the platform and the equipment that work best for you.
Well, and even to that, most of the platforms, you don't even need a power meter, because most of the platforms will allow for virtual power, which, while it's not as accurate as true power from a power meter, it's better than just a subjective, what you think you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had athletes that when they started using virtual power and then stepped up to real power, they suddenly discovered that their sense of RPE, or rate of perceived exertion, was way off, because they could go a lot harder than what they thought they could.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but anyway, to that point, yes, you can start out with virtual power, which means you don't have to spend however many hundreds of dollars on a power meter.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So one plug too for BSC is that when you're a coached athlete or have access through Team BSC and using the whatever platform you use, our coaches can load in structured training into those platforms. And the result of that is whatever platform you're using, the output is what's important for the coach, right? The data
right,
analysis. So
right.
depending on whether you're in a metrics-based Trainer Road where you're just looking at numbers on the screen, or you're using something like Zwift or Ruby or Sufferfest where you have a video that helps you visually get through the workout, the ultimate outcome is the same. The platform allows for recording of data, and that data is then uploaded to your platform, your Training Peaks platform, so that you can actually analyze and assess progress.
Right. And to that point, whatever platform you're using, at the end of it, when you're done, I see the same data. It doesn't matter. It frankly doesn't matter if you're outdoors or Trainer Road or Zwift or Sufferfest. It doesn't matter. I'm going to see the same data from any of those.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point of uploading things, and we did this with Jordan last year. He was going to be racing at Nationals last year. And so we actually recreated the Nationals bike course, and had a file that he could ride on his smart trainer. So it had all the elevation variances. And so he rode that course, a dozen times before you actually got to the course. And so there's little things we can do like that because of a smart trainer and the platforms and the way they work together, which is pretty cool.
Well, guys, this has been a great topic. I think covering the need for, or the necessity or not of an actual power trainer, smart trainer, power meter and then using it on different platforms is really appropriate given the times that we're in now, coming out of the pandemic and looking at how long we'll still be indoors training and racing. And our earlier podcast in the series, we did talk about the virtual racing platform as well. So it ties nicely with having the right equipment or the equipment that works best for you and the platform that works best for you, but ultimately getting the numbers that you want so that you can achieve your goals. Thanks both for this discussion. It was great to dig into this today. If you'd like to learn more about BSC Multisport, log on to our website at bscmultisport.com. You can find out if you're BSC and find out more information about our team on the website. Also, you can click and subscribe on our YouTube channel, and we'll look forward to seeing you again. Thanks for joining.